Radhika Jones, Ta-Nehisi Coates, welcome to the Daily Social Distancing Show.
Thank you, Trevor.
Let us talk about something that is making news everywhere online, and I know you've sent me a special copy of it. It is Vanity Fair,
Wow, I don't
and
have that. I'm the
yeah, I don't,
editor and
I
I
don't
don't have
think anybody has it.
He
You've
has
got
it
to be
before we
somebody
have
to
it.
get this. You've got to be somebody to get this. But thank you very much. I literally just got my hands on this copy now, and you sent it to us. But what makes this cover so powerful is that that's Breonna Taylor on the cover of Vanity Fair. We also know that Ta-Nehisi Coates is part of this. Let's start on your side, Radhika. You've released a cover and an issue that's really going to be making some news. What is the purpose of this issue? Because I want to read this part to you here, and it's really powerful, where you talk about the Great Fire. What is it all about?
Yeah, I became editor of Vanity Fair about 2.5 years ago, and I in a way it's a magazine that's about aspiration. It's about power and personality, and I think that aspiration can be inclusive. It should be inclusive. So for this issue, 2020 has been a year of historic import. It was that in March when the pandemic reached American shores, and it became it again in late May when George Floyd was murdered in broad daylight and demonstrations and protests began. And they weren't just happening in Minneapolis, they were happening around the world. And so we felt we wanted to capture the spirit of these months that have revealed real problems in the American system. If you didn't believe in systemic racism before now, if you didn't believe that our healthcare needed reforming, if you look around now, you probably do believe it. And we wanted to draw on the most vibrant collection of artists and writers that we could to kind of shed light on this extended moment. So that was the plan, and who better to help us do that than Ta-Nehisi Coates, who was the person I most wanted to hear from at this time.
Let's talk a little bit about that. Everybody wants to hear from you. To come on board for a project like this is no small undertaking, because you know that everybody is waiting to see what you're going to write, how you're going to write it, how you're going to tell a story that we already know in a way that we don't know. And what you've done is really interesting in this issue is you've talked about the life of Breonna Taylor and what has happened to her through a lens that many of us haven't seen it through before. Talk us through, firstly, why you came on board, and secondly, what you hope to have achieved by telling the story the way you have.
First of all, what you just articulated, like that is the problem. I mean, it may sound somewhat ghoulish to say this, but that is the actual creative problem, in the sense of how do you tell somebody a story that they already know in some sort of different way. And I think what it allowed me to do in partnership with Radhika was assemble all of these artists and writers, and so to bring all of these sort of different perspectives onto the issue. So that guaranteed that we got something a little different. And then I just fell back on my old journalism bones, which is, don't sit on your butt and try to, come up with something.
Right.
Go see something. So I went down to Louisville and spent a few days down there. And while I was there, I had the distinct honor of interviewing Tamika Palmer, Breonna's mother. And the first part of the story, where she talks about finding out what happened to Breonna and how agonizing it was. She told me that story in the first interview. And I thought at that moment, there really is nothing that I am going to say that is going to be more eloquent, that is going to be more expressive, that's going to be more illuminating or enlightening than the mother of this woman who just got killed. And really what I need to do is find some way to hand her the mic and, be more of a vessel to let her talk, than thinking that somehow I'm going to have some sort of interpretive analysis, that's going to be superior to that.
There's something to be said about how much black art you've showcased in the magazine as well. I don't want people to look at this magazine and think that this is only a story of pain. In a strange way and in a paradoxical way, it's also a story of triumph. It's a story of beauty. It's a story of a journey. It does take you through the complex paradigm of blackness. Why was that important?
I mean, I think we wanted a whole product. My favorite part, in terms of what I was directly involved in, is listening to Breonna Taylor's mother, Tamika, talk about how she ended up in a motorcycle club and how she then went and taught her daughter how to ride, motorcycles. Because if you just say focus on what the police did or what happened to this person, you actually become a participant in the dehumanization. It is very, very, very important that people be reminded that there was an actual life that was taken. Cops didn't kick in Breonna Taylor's door and shoot a slogan. They didn't shoot a piece of legislation. They shot a human being, with a mother and a little sister and a man that she, had been with for some time, with relations in the community. They shot a person. And so if you're gonna have actual people, you really do need that range. You know what I mean? And so that was within that piece, but I think across the magazine, it was very, very effective.
We asked Ava DuVernay, the great director, to interview Dr. Angela Davis for the issue. Dr. Davis says something that really has stuck with me. She says that art is the thing that makes you feel what you might not yet fully understand. And we thought in that vein when we thought about photographing actors alongside activists and directors like Ava, and writers like Isabel Wilkerson and Colson Whitehead, people who have been moving the needle on the culture for a long time. And their work is so important, and it does lay the ground for change. And so we wanted, that is something to celebrate, to answer your question. And we didn't want to overlook that in putting the whole issue together.
What do you hope people take away from this issue?
Well, first of all, I hope they will keep it and sit with it, because it's not this month and gone. As you said, Trevor, these stories aren't going away. And we created it that way so that it could feel like a keepsake. I want people to feel provoked by some of the arguments in this issue. I want them to feel challenged. I want them to feel like maybe it's time to re-examine some old positions or some old prejudices and think about them and consider them. And because that's what we've been doing. And that really is, I think, the goal of all of this writing and all of this art, is to make people think.
Radhika, Ta-Nehisi, thank you so much for joining me on the show again, and congratulations on creating what, as you said, I hope is a keepsake for many people for a long time to come. Thank you so much.
Thank you, guys. Thank you all.